Good afternoon, evening, or morning, or night, beautiful people. It is so great to have you here on this episode of Vulnerability Time. I'm your host, Trenton Epizon Rucker, and I'm looking forward to today's topics and our guests. So, our special guest is a queen. Her name is Julia. She's a certified life coach, self love educator, and author. She supports her clients in creating a life filled with happiness, love, and abundance, and in letting go of the old stories that are holding them back. Julia is the author of the Ultimate Self-Love Workbook, which you will also, which y'all will be able to check out in the episode description. I'll have all that information there. She's the creator of the Radical Self-Love Coaching Program and the leader of the Radical Self-Love Collective. And you can connect with her on Instagram at Julie Spiritual Coaching. But then again, that information will be all there for you in the episode description. Yes. So with that being said, Julia, it is so wonderful to have you. Y'all, today's topics, we're going to be talking about self-love journey, perfectionism, and being too much. But yeah, so Julia, before we start, what got you interested in, being a therapist?
Oh, well, thank you for that warm welcome, Trenton. I love your work and your podcast, so I'm honored to be a guest today. Actually, I'm not a therapist. I am a credentialed teacher, but it's fine. It's fine.
You changed it on the flyer.
It's fine. I am a mental health advocate, so I do talk about self-love and anxiety because both of those things are things I've struggled with in my own life. And I am a certified coach, so that was something that during the pandemic, I had a coaching business and I work with people who really just struggle with their self-worth and not feeling good enough, not loving themselves, to just step into the highest version of themselves and feel confident and empowered and shine their light and not be afraid of being too much. So I'm really glad that we have the opportunity to discuss that topic today.
Yes. And y'all, before we dive deeper into this, I just want to go ahead and give the honor to Julia, to just thank you for being vulnerable with us, and because she's going to share, her story, her perspectives, in regards to self-love, perfectionism, and being too much. So I would love to start off with the self-love journey, because I know as for me, that has definitely been a bit of a struggle, and I'm sure many of us can relate. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I think, all of us are really on a self-love journey, whether we realize it or not. There is a lack of self-love or there is an abundance. And in my case, I noticed just the types of relationships I was attracting and friendships were not fulfilling. Oftentimes, especially with romantic relationships, could be unhealthy, could be toxic. And I always thought it was them. I think there's this automatic, kind of assumption that it must be the other person. So you blame them or blame the world rather than take responsibility and accountability for the energy you're putting out and doing the healing work. That's what I do with my clients, because it's a lot of unconscious limiting beliefs that people have, we all have. And if we don't heal them and if we don't release them, we just get stuck in the same patterns, because over 90% of our thoughts are unconscious. So we're not even, you know this, we're not even realizing that this is creating our life and our experiences, and that there is a better way. Just because we haven't seen it yet, we can live this life that we're so happy and so fulfilled. But it always comes from within us. So if we look for love externally, we're not going to find it. It has to start with us.
Right. Yeah, 1000% I agree. Something that I thought about when you were sharing that, you said it is within us. So folks, and I want to hear Julia's input as well on this. So folks, what I'm hearing is, those tools of self-love, they are in us. They are still in there. Though we may have been taught and learn to not love ourselves. You know what I mean? Whether it's from, you know, social media, the media, just those that you're around. So I want to give y'all the grace as well and the encouragement that Julia just shared. Don't Let's start to a point where, hey, like, though you may carry these insecurities and this struggle with self-love or self-worth, know that it did not start with you, but it started to you. So let's
Mhm.
give yourself some grace there, and also let's take the encouragement that Julia just shared. It's still inside of you. Those tools are still inside of you. Um, yeah, I'm Julia, does that make sense a little bit?
Yes, no, thank you for tying that in. I feel like it's very easy to talk about, like, just love yourself, and it seems very
Right,
easy. And I'm glad we're going to talk about a little bit about being too much, because that was part of my journey, being bullied in middle school. Just because I was who I was. I wasn't trying to be cool or fit in. And I think a lot of times, love is conditional, whether it's at home or at school or in our community, that we need to be a certain way or fit a certain mold. And if we don't, then we're not deserving of that love.
right,
And that can really affect our psyche and how we go about living our lives. So for me, it was kind of one of those moments where I could either try to be like everyone else or let it break me, or stay in my truth and keep shining my light. So I would just recommend that to any of your listeners, to there is beauty in diversity. We don't all want to be the same, and to continue to shine bright and be a beautiful ray of hope, just as you are, even when we face adversity and we face judgment from others and criticism, that we continue to stay in our truth, because staying in our truth and being who we are meant to be is a huge part of self-love, and that's something that's a daily practice.
right, right. Um, I couldn't have said it better myself. One of the things that I find really interesting about what Julia said. Um, Now, mind you, when y'all go check out her page, y'all will see all this just love, light, beauty, but that all started from somewhere. Not everything, I'm sure there were times where, we wanted to give up. A lot of things can be, an upward spiral. So I definitely take a lot of encouragement in Julia's story because, yes, having to fit in the box, unfortunately, like, it, not everyone can do that, even though I don't think people should do that. But I mean, there's a multitude of reasons, societal pressure and all that good stuff. I lost track, but what I'm trying to say is no one ever makes a change by being like everyone else.
Yeah.
And so Julia is a prime example of that, is a prime example of, even on the darkest nights, the moon still has the courage to shine.
Oh,
You
I love that.
know, yeah, and it's just, I mean, it's just so true, and y'all are gonna like see that as well. But just know, take comfort, y'all, and Julia is an example of kept on going, kept on going. Doesn't mean you don't have hiccups and whatnot. She kept on going. You know what I mean? Whether there might have been slowdowns or stops, she kept on going. So yes, you're gonna see all this, awesomeness on her page, but also take comfort. It wasn't always like that. And so if you're in a place right now where you're in the quote unquote dark, just know dark doesn't mean done.
Mhm.
Dark does not mean done. um so yeah, so is there a certain event that led up to you, like, okay, I gotta love myself now. I'm realizing that I'm not loving myself. Is there a certain event, or was it like a multitude of events? And what were those? That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think there was probably a lot of things, like for me, I was finishing my teaching credential. The pandemic had happened. I had some time to just sit with myself. Before that, a year before, I had gotten out of a unhealthy relationship where a lot of my self-worth was tied into it. And when it didn't work out, it was really difficult for me, because I learned, I was experiencing like an anxious attachment style. And that's something I do with my clients, is the attachment styles, where you're just losing yourself in the relationship and you don't know where they, end and you begin. And I recognized that I didn't just love myself. Like, I didn't feel like I was enough on my own. I always felt like I needed a relationship or a job or something to prove that I was enough and I was worthy. And I think a lot of us do that. We place our value in external things and not in who we are in the internal. So I think that was kind of a big turning point, that I was just tired of the pain and the suffering, and I was ready to make that change and to go on this journey and to do the work. And it was a lot of work, because I did most of it without a coach. I think it helps to have, whether a coach or a therapist or someone to support and guide you. But once I did that, then I saw everything was changing. Like, I no longer was attracting these unhealthy relationships. I was creating meaningful and fulfilling friendships that were, give and take, not one-sided. And then my business was flourishing. All of these things, was a result of the work that I did during that time, during the pandemic.
Gotcha. See, yeah, that I'm hearing there was a multitude of events, correct, that led up to it. So, folks listening, then again, Julia is a phenomenal example of, just because you don't get it right the first time does not mean that it's over. And I'm saying that because I wish I was told that, back then. Because when I actually finally became aware of, okay, like, my self-worth is being tied to, unhealthy relationships around me, or whatever self-worth was at that point. But when I realized, okay, something's not all right, I would beat myself up a little bit. No, I would beat myself up a lot of bit, because I just couldn't get it right the first time or the second time. I'm like, why can't I love myself? How do I get to that point? And like I said, it's that upward spiral, healing, success, recovery, none of that's linear. Sometimes when it looks like you're going like 4 steps backward, maybe you're going 4 steps forward. It's just not going to be linear. And so I look back and then I look at myself now and I was like, I love myself. And though it is still an ongoing journey, how I view and love myself now is completely different than how I quote unquote loved myself back then. So I just want people to know, hey, just because you're not seeing instant results does not mean that, you're failing or that, something's going wrong. It's maybe there's some progress. Maybe it's just slow progress going on. Would you agree, Julia?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, we live in a society that's based on instant gratification, and we want to see the results right away, but it can take time. It's just like, self-love, I think about like planting seeds, and you have to grow your garden and cultivate it. And then before you know it, you will have these blossoms and these sprouts. But if you're waiting and you're watching, it can take time. But if you are doing the work, then you will see the results. You will experience it. It's just the patience aspect.
Right. And like you said, like in a very, like our society, at least the westernized society, we're very just kind of like drive-through culture, like has to happen fast or else something's like for example, like in a drive-through, like if the food is taking like 5 minutes, I mean, we're going to get a little frustrated, like is something wrong? But it's like sometimes, I mean, like, for example, like at a really nice restaurant, let's say it's taking the food an hour, you know what I mean? Sometimes greatness takes a little bit longer, sometimes, sometimes it does. And, in regards to, like self-worth being tied to, these external things, at least for me, I can see how that can tie into perfectionism.
Mhm.
Would you want to speak to us a little bit about like, your journey or your thoughts on perfectionism?
Absolutely. Well, and I think that with perfectionism, I'm not sure if it's Brene Brown. She's very great about talking about
Oh
authenticity.
yeah.
Like that. But it seemed like she even said that that's like the cousin of shame.
Mm-hmm.
That two sides of the same coin. We're really just afraid of being ashamed or not being good enough. So perfectionism, we sometimes people think, oh, it's okay because you're just doing your best, but if you have to be perfect, you're setting unrealistic expectations on yourself that you wouldn't for someone else. So you have to give yourself that, like you're saying, the grace and the compassion. Yeah. So with perfectionism, I've actually had a lot of clients who struggled with that, and it stems from a lot of the insecurities, things from childhood, and that need to be healed. So it's all related, absolutely. And in my journey, it definitely was because, as I said, I was bullied in middle school, and then the only way that I was even seen, because I felt so invisible or respected,
Mm-hmm.
was to get good grades. So I had to get A's, and I had to be. Do you relate?
Yes, I'm struggling with that still.
Oh.
It's a lot better. It's tons better. But yeah, sorry, I'll let you continue. I'm sorry. I
No,
felt
no,
that.
I'm glad that it resonates. I'm sure for other people it could be, their job and how much they
Hmm.
make or whatever it is. But that was a way that people were like, oh, like they might not like me, but they respected me because I did well academically. But then of course that turns a little bit into can turn into an obsession, and I felt that way in college where. Even up until getting my credential, I still had to get straight A's, and nobody cared. Nobody saw my grades, but I was just exhausting myself in hopes of being seen as perfect.
Hmm.
And then actually, and I think sometimes when people try so hard to be perfect, it can be alienating because if you're not authentic and you're not vulnerable, people can't relate to you. So in my experiences with relationships and friendships, the more I can be vulnerable and the more like my clients can be vulnerable, the greater the success of the relationships, because then you can connect in a real way. Because if you have someone on a pedestal, you can't
Yeah,
ever.
exactly. And yeah, like, because humans, let's be honest, we relate to real, not perfection. Why? Because there's no human that, is perfection. And like, the pedestal, like, it will break, it will break. And that's the thing, a little bit with my experience, Julia, with perfectionism. 100% stemmed from childhood, 100%, and I just realized last year, you know, um, that I struggle with perfectionism, and
Mm,
it's always been present, but I never really realized it. How my brain heals it. I feel like it seems like it heals in layers, like because I work on myself, I go to therapy, all that good stuff,
great.
just to know myself more, research more, and it's just like, oh, I'm finding these new things and healing from this. um like, for
It's like an
example.
onion.
Hmm.
It's like an onion. It just
Yeah, like
layers.
an onion.
Uh,
Yes, onions make people cry. That's
oh, it's
boom.
true.
um yeah, it's kind of like I was a trophy child. Like, I was not noticed by family or anyone because I mean, I never fit in the box. And no matter how much I tried, I just could not fit in the box. Which now I'm grateful for now. But then, I was like, what's wrong with me? And so humans, we want to, to be accepted. We want to, have this feeling of fitting in. I mean, even going back to the hunter-gatherer days, these are our primal, communal instincts, and it's like,
Survival, yeah.
exactly, and sometimes, it can turn into getting the right things from the wrong places. And though, getting good grades and all that stuff, I mean, that's great and all, you know what I mean? But it started to become, I would say, kind of like hindering in a way, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. Because it's like, okay, if I don't make this certain grade, then I'm unseen, I'm unheard, I have no value, because it seemed like growing up, others only showed me that I had value when it was conditional, when it was, for their convenience, and folks, it is possible to get to a place where you are valuable regardless. You are
Yes.
valuable. I wish someone had told me that failure is a precursor to success. There are things that failures teach you that literally success cannot teach you. And so I mean, I've struggled with failures, like I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, like wait, this is the thing. What is really the definition of failure?
That's what I was gonna say. I think it's just a learning experience, really.
Right. I think yeah, learning experience. Yeah, I feel like a lot of things aren't definition, they're more perception. Because
Yeah.
to me, um, for example, to me, and this is true, y'all. Like in my undergrad and college, to me, making an 89 on a test, I felt like I failed. I was a
Yeah.
failure, but to someone else, that is phenomenal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To someone else, them making a 70 on a test is huge, and so I begin to learn, through failure, not success. I learned through failure when, I was hit hard in an area of pride, and where I was like, this is my value. No, that area got hit. And that helped me to learn that, this does not change your worth. I'm proud of you for still trying. And I'm like, a friend was like, you passed. That's awesome. You tried your best. That's awesome. But to me, I'm like, no, like, and I did try my best, so it was based on perception. So it's like, who's really, like, what is really failure? Like, to folks out there, like, if you are struggling with, let's say, an eating disorder. I struggle with an eating disorder, y'all. I feel like if I eat one meal, I fail. However, to my mom, she's like, that is huge. I'm proud of you for eating at all. So I'm like, these things in life, now I'm doing so much better with my eating disorder, y'all, but there's things in life that, um, failure may not feel good, but failure maybe isn't always your enemy. Would you agree, Julia?
Absolutely. And thank you for your courage and vulnerability, because I know you being so open and authentic and honest helps other people, because everybody goes through stuff. We all have things that, we struggle with, and we suffer from, but it's this common humanity that unites us, that, we are all, deserving of unconditional love, not the conditional love that we were speaking of, where your worth is tied into it. And that's our birthright. I mean, at some point, and I was even going to say, I don't know what the age is, but you see a baby and they are whole, they are enough. But then you see an adult and for some reason they're not. So there's a disconnect. I don't know if it's when you start school and there's the academic pressures or what, but if that's the important thing, is to go back to that
Right.
you don't have to do anything and to prove your worth. And I really am a fan of the work of Eckhart Tolle. However, now he talks a lot about that kind of stuff, that you are okay, you are enough, you don't have to be something you're not, or show it through your actions. Yeah.
And exactly, I like that, because y'all, everyone is gonna, make their mistakes. Everyone is gonna mess up. Now, whether we see it or not, whether how good they can hide it, because I can attest to that. I hid my quote unquote mistakes for a long time. And I say quote unquote because a lot of the times my mistakes were just perception. And also, in regards to perfectionism, bullying, can also bring out a sense of, I have to be perfect, because maybe I won't get bullied if I'm like, oh, you're too skinny. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, if I would just get bigger, then I would be perfect. So until I am bigger, I'm not perfect. Does that make sense? I feel like a lot of us in society can feel that way. The damage that comes with comparison. there's a so like I really respect what Julia is saying, you know what I mean? A lot of the things that we struggle with our identity, you know what I mean? A lot of it can stem from our younger ages. Um, Not trying to get philosophical, but Erickson's psychosociological, I'm saying the word wrong, y'all, but
I know it.
Erickson's psychosocial development stages. Yes, there we go. It theorizes that the childhood stages are the most important stages in a human being's life, because that's hey, it's hard to unlearn things from child, you know what I mean? Our brain is vulnerable, our body is vulnerable, you know, it's constantly taking in information, learning information. And that's what brings me back to the point of a lot of these things, you know, I would say none of these things started with us, they started to us, you know, because no one was born out the womb and said, okay, I'm gonna hate myself, ooh, let's
Mm.
see, yeah, I'm gonna look at myself in the mirror and point out every flaw, or everything I think is a flaw, or everything that people are telling me is a flaw, you know. So yeah, I mean, have you ever heard of Erickson's? I mean, I just now heard of it like a year or two ago. Erickson's psychosociological developmental
Yes,
stages.
I do remember my undergrad taking like I mean I'm a little rusty, but like a child development course. And
Yes.
yes, and it really, that's why it is so important to do. That's something I do with my clients is inner child healing, because if we don't heal those traumas and heal, what we've experienced, then they will continue to show up in our adult life. And we're wondering, well, why am I attracting this type of person? Or why am I struggling financially, when I have a good job, or, whatever it might be, because of these, like unconscious patterns. But absolutely. I think that at some point we just start to, maybe that is in like that developmental stage when we're children, that we take in all these messages that we have to be the same and fit a certain mold. And if we don't, that we're not lovable. But, I feel like as a society, if we can kind of rise up and not buy into the, mass media's messaging and the beauty standards and all these things, then everyone can be different. Everyone can, it's like flowers of a garden. We don't all have to be roses. We can be daffodils and tulips and hydrangeas, because there's so much beauty in that. But we are getting all of these messages. Who's telling us all of this? This is not the truth.
Right.
Starting to question, I think, is important.
Exactly. 1000%. Julia, would you say you still every now and then struggle with perfectionism? Would you say, I mean, that you're better now than you were then, but would you say, you still struggle with it to some extent, sometimes at least?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think, I consider myself a recovering perfectionist.
Hmm.
So it is going to creep up time to time, especially when I was writing my workbook. Some imposter syndrome was popping in. And what if people don't like this? And what if this isn't good enough? What if I make a mistake? And then people think I'm not smart because I misspelled a word. All of those things creep in. But I think it's just so the thoughts might come, but it's the energy you give them and the power. So not giving them the power, not letting them stop you from doing what you want to do, I think is the most important. It's how you react to the thoughts, because thoughts aren't facts. And that's a huge thing I talk about a lot on my page.
Can you say that again? Thoughts aren't what?
Facts.
Thoughts aren't facts. Just gonna let us sit on that for about 5 seconds. Thoughts aren't facts.
We tend to believe whatever our mind tells us.
Hmm.
And a lot of times it's the very negative. It's to keep, like the survival instinct, it's to keep us alive. It's to keep us safe. But if we can recognize we're our safe place and we don't have to be afraid of the thoughts or listen to them, that we give them as much attention as we want, but we are the ones who are we're the awareness. We are not the thoughts. That's what
Right.
Eckhart Tolle also talks a lot about. So I think that's a good way to distinguish and separate and distance yourself, because if you identify with your thoughts, then oh boy, it's rough.
Yeah, it's a little rocky, isn't it? Yeah. Y'all, I just know y'all are getting tons of wisdom, inspiration, and knowledge from Julia.
Oh, and you
And
too.
I highly recommend getting her workbook. Julia, can you tell us a little bit about your workbook, and where we could, purchase it?
Absolutely.
Yes, and it'll be
Yeah.
in the episode description, everybody. But I also want, y'all to hear it from Julia herself, the queen.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Yeah, it's basically everything I do with my clients in my program, but so much more because it's very interactive and there's 12 chapters. It's 187 pages. So it is jam packed with so many of these activities and questions and exercises to really get you to the root of that healing, of releasing those limiting beliefs, of loving yourself unconditionally, developing a sense of self-compassion, and so much. There's inner child healing, shadow work, and I just wanted to make it very comprehensive because if we don't heal all of the areas, then something might, start to kind of pop up again. And a lot about just, the dreams and the goals and taking that inspired action and making your dreams a reality because you're feeling like you love yourself and that you are capable of achieving your goals and your dreams. Yeah, so it's definitely something my heart and soul is into, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to share about it today.
Right, exactly. All of this whole theme that I'm hearing with this discussion is, folks, you don't have to be perfect to be beautiful. You don't have to be perfect to have purpose. Wait, did I say that right? You don't have to be perfect to have purpose. Yes, there we go. Yeah, I tend to stutter on my words, y'all. I'm not editing it. It's vulnerability time.
You're doing great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, passion is purpose as well. So folks, if there's something inside of you, that has been dimmed or suppressed for a while, it's never too late. And I'm gonna say this quote again. Y'all are gonna hear this on other episodes as well, but it's just so profound. When is the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. But when is the best time to start? Today. Y'all, it is never too late. Don't feel like tons of time has been wasted. Oh, you should have, did this in your childhood or learned this in your childhood. Look, you didn't know no better. You were doing the best that you can with the tools that were or were not given to you. So you just acknowledging that is a huge, huge step. Would you agree, Julia? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to know that you are not, no matter what your past has been, you're not broken, you're not damaged, you are deserving of love, you're deserving of compassion and forgiveness. And to always, like you said, every day is a kind of a fresh start. We can always start over. That giving yourself that love is not selfish or vain or egotistical. It's actually a gift to the world, because if you love yourself and you feel that, beautiful light within you and you shine it, everyone benefits. You're sharing your gift with the world, just as you're doing with this podcast. So just to continue to shine your light, because it's just going to brighten up the whole world.
Yeah, that is perfect. There's a note that I wanted to end off on, based off what Julia said. Let's say if there's a row of candles and you light one, okay, and you pass it around and you light the other, your light doesn't go away. It's just gonna light the other candles. So it's just like, we're all light. We're just all gonna be light, is gonna light up light, and also, y'all, it is hard to see. Let me make sure I get this statement right. I said it earlier, but I know how I can mess up words. Okay. I'm just going to say it out loud, Julia, and correct me because I know I'm going to say it wrong. Okay, let's see. You cannot see the light without darkness sometimes. So just because you are in the dark does not mean that it's done, does not mean that it's over. Just want to encourage people with that, so if you're in the dark right now, this is just to encourage you. It's not over. It is not over. It's serving its purpose to an extent, because they're light, the light, I don't know if I made that make sense, but I
Oh,
said it better.
I know what you mean. And it's like the saying, it's always darkest before the dawn. And I've
There we
definitely
go.
times in my life where it was so dark that I thought my life was over, and then things can, like completely change, especially if you hit like rock bottom. So if anyone's listening in there are in that place, like you were saying, to not lose hope, there are people out there that want to support you and care about you, and maybe even people you haven't even met yet. I mean, that you're going to have into your life. So just keep that hope alive, and know that you are inherently enough, and you're worthy, and you're loved, and that no one can take away that self-love. Once you've developed that within yourself, then that's yours to keep, and that is what is going to help you, as you're saying, shining your light.
Yes, exactly. And y'all, one other thingy, I know that some of y'all out there, because I know this has been me a lot, it's hard to, have those people and find those people. However, though you have not met those people yet, they are coming. There are things that you can do now to, to help. And for example, purchasing Julia's workbook. This is not necessarily trying to make a sell, but just what the workbook encompasses. If you're resonating what Julia is saying, you know what I mean? And if you feel alone, you know what I mean? If you want to, make the next move in your journey, but you don't know how to, or you feel like you can't, this is a great way to, make that journey, to take that next step, because you don't have to do it on your own. Though sometimes it can feel like physically we can be on our own. Sometimes that sucks. It doesn't feel good. However, Julia is an example. Like I said, nobody makes a change by being like everyone else. Her book, okay, her Instagram page, her as a person, you know what I mean? She's able to help herself and others, and and others to be inspired, because she is not like everyone else, quote unquote, is not like everyone else. And I say that quote unquote because it's like fitting the box, like Julia stands out, and that's where the inspiration is. That's where, the learning is, the growth can happen. So folks, you're not alone in this. Julia is a huge example. Look at where she is at now, and it's still a learning process, but where she is now is not where she was like 8 years ago. So yes, with that being said, Julia, is there any other last minute statements that you want to make, or did we cover everything?
We covered so much, and thank you for all of the kind words, and I feel the same way about you. Your Instagram is so inspiring, and just like the vulnerability time, I really feel like it connects us to you, and I'm just so excited for this new podcast. And the last thing I was going to say, that something else in the workbook is law of attraction. I'm very big on that. The like attracts like, and I do take you through different exercises and activities that have helped me and that have helped others, because that's a huge part of it. If you love yourself, then and you are giving that love, you're just going to attract it. So you will attract your tribe. And I did have to kind of have that time where I was doing that work, where there weren't those people. But now I've seen, like, having you in my life and so many of my other amazing friends from all around the world, that, once we do that work, you are going to start to see the external changes in your life. But it does start with you first.
Right. I can definitely attest to that. For sure. Well, that is beautiful, y'all. We just want to thank Julia for all of her hard work, for just being a light, for not giving up for us. This is hope. This is love. This is light. This is determination. This is not giving up. This is vulnerability time. And with that being said, love you all, you beautiful people. I will see y'all next Friday. And remember, folks, the even number episodes are just my own personal commentary and experiences in regards to these topics. The odd number episodes will be our special guests. And we hope to see Julia again.
Thank you for having me. This was great. You're a wonderful host.
Oh, thank you.
Very comfortable.
Yeah, and like I said, her information, her Instagram, her where to get her book will be in the episode description below. Also, my book will be in the episode description below as well. So be on the lookout for that, y'all. And I will see y'all next Friday.
Bye.
Bye, but not you though. But bye to them, not you though.
Okay.
Wait. Let's see.